Welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Madingor. Is our membership in the East African community a solution to our problems? Can it help us achieve prosperity? We are joined by Aggrey Tisa Sabuni, the Presidential Advisor for Economic Affairs. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
How are you?
I'm good.
East African community as an idea for fixing the nation. We gained independence in 2011. We launched our application, and now we are members. You dissect this for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mading. It's my pleasure to share with you and your audience issues to do with South Sudan's membership in the East African community in terms of what is in it for South Sudan. And since your program is related to fixing the country, the Republic of South Sudan, I think let's provide your audience, both viewers and listeners, with some kind of perspective or background to this idea of fixing. And then we'll zero it down to fixing it via our membership in the East African community.
Let's dive right into it.
Okay. The East African community is what we call any integration body of countries or block of countries that want to come together in order to fast track the holistic, comprehensive development of their countries and their people. And it has been realized that the way to do that faster is via trading. The whole integration process, at the heart of it, is trading. Now, if you analyze trading properly, you will find that it can never take place unless other programs, other activities are also fixed or put in place. Now, when you talk about trading, it means goods to trade are produced. When you talk about production, whether through manufacturing or through agricultural production, you name it, it means any investment must have taken place, because production cannot take place without investment. Now, if for investment to take place, a conducive, appropriate, supportive atmosphere has to be created. Now, to create those supportive, conducive, appropriate atmosphere means a whole body of policies, laws, regulations, procedures, practices also have to be in place, all underlined by a tranquil, stable security situation characterized by peaceful existence. Now, with this in mind, it means now everybody is on board. All the government agencies are on board, to each one doing their part to create that appropriate, conducive atmosphere to permit investment.
We'll have time to explore those things, but can you bring me to the basics of the East African community?
Yes, exactly. It is holistic development.
There were five member states before South Sudan became...
Yes, I'm coming to that. Predicated on exchange of goods, services, and people. Now, the bloc as it stands now is made up of 6 members, with South Sudan becoming member number 6 since March this year, following a long period of negotiations and so on and so on. So the members, the original 5 members are the Republic of Tanzania, the Republic of Kenya, Republic of Uganda, Republic of Rwanda, Republic of Burundi, and now Republic of South Sudan has become member number 6. These are the countries that desire to cooperate, support each other in order to create conducive atmospheres in their country that enables, facilitates production for the purpose of trade. You do that by through the, as provided for through the treaty, by first of all cooperating among yourselves, supporting each other, helping each other in terms of security, in terms of defense, in terms of foreign policy, in terms of many things, so that operating as a bloc, you can create the required atmosphere for production and for trading. The treaty itself provides the framework for the cooperation. Then there are specific protocols that bring about this kind of situation. For trade to happen between countries, there are things to do with customs matters. There are things to do with categorization, identification of the goods to be traded, and then the appropriate laws that facilitate that kind of trading. To do that, you also need to bring on board a specific protocol, that is protocol on common market, that regulates the movement of people and persons, that regulates the movement of goods, that regulates the movement of capital, and that regulates the movement of services.
We'll get there. Why don't we take it slowly a little bit?
Okay.
There has been a hot debate about whether our membership was premature, or whether that some people argued that it was a rush to Arusha. And we are no longer debating about entering the East African community. We are members. So how do we sink in this reality for the people?
Yes, they are entitled to their views until they are properly informed, then they will understand what the whole thing is all about. Okay? Is it a rush? Say if I were to approach it from their point of view, is it a rush to help create the required infrastructure in the country? Is it a rush to create conditions that will fix the educational services in the country? Is it a rush to create conditions that will help fix the health situations in the country, the things that matter to the human being? Is it a rush? For how long are we going to wait until those things are put in place?
The point is for you to answer these critics. And there
Yes.
have been many.
That's correct.
There have been many South Sudanese who felt that this was a government decision. It was not a people's decision. There was no referendum about it. But really, we are talking about the context of fixing a nation. So there are definitely some virtues that come with the East African community. So after the rush, which the critics said, what do we end up with now? So we are sent it to the community in April, more or less. That's when the treaty was signed. So where are we now, and where do we go as far as fixing this thing called South Sudan?
Okay. A government is a body of people put together by the communities, by the population. It is put there to do a lot of things, including leading the country, leading the communities properly to greener pastures. So once the government is in place, it is not expected to sit and do nothing. It is expected to lead. And the government has properly convinced itself that doing nothing about the current state of affairs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of health, in terms of education is not any option.
But let's do those things through our membership. How do we get there? How do we do that?
Exactly. When you talk about creating with the support of neighbors and members there, when you do those kind of things that enable you to operate in a peaceful, stable atmosphere, facilitating investment, facilitating production, where the masses get employed. That is a very direct way of fixing. Okay? Now, if you allow me, for all the time you can think of since God created South Sudan, the required atmosphere did not exist. The institutions that are needed, that are required to together cooperate to create those kind of conditions were either not there or are weak. They are weak because they lack the required capacity. Going through the programs, the laws and the procedures and the policies that are in place in the East African community provides the atmosphere, the conditions for creating the required capacity, institutional capacity, personnel capacity to properly come up with the required policies.
Let me just get an understanding of what you're saying.
Okay.
Are you saying we are not, we don't have what it takes to be effective members, so we will not be able to benefit from the East African, let me just finish my point.
Yeah.
We'll never be able to benefit from the East African community until we have those things you're talking about in place.
I'm saying on the contrary that the membership in the East African community will fast track the creation of those
How does it do that? We are members, so it's not a question of if
we became members as of March this year. That is through admission.
Okay.
The treaty for admission got signed in April. Our parliament ratified it in May, and now the instrument of accession, the treaty, has been deposited. So South Sudan is a full member now. It will now begin to do the things that it committed itself into doing, coming up with the appropriate policies, appropriate laws, begin to develop the institutions that will now enable production for trade to take place. This is what we are trying to come back. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Okay?
It takes time.
Yes.
And in this not making the point for the critics who are saying you rush to Arusha, shouldn't those policies have been in place in the first place and then you make a move? Is that not the procedural way of doing things?
Let me suggest we put it the other way around. If we are not, if we have not so far connected ourselves as a country in terms of roads, here we're talking about infrastructure. We have not so far created and provided the services that the people need. That's why a lot of those who are able to send their children abroad or to the East African communities that we have joined. They send those who are able to go for medical services abroad or to these very countries that we have become members in the East African community. Why? It's because those things are not here. And it is the duty of any government to make sure that they are provided here. Is it a rush? Is it a rush to desire for the creation of these things in country?
So it's a good place to stop. We'll get into those benefits.
Yes.
Let's take a break. Welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Madingor. Do you have a vision for South Sudan? Do you have what it takes to build a just and cohesive South Sudanese society? What is your idea for fixing the nation? Join me for one-on-one interview. Let's debate about who we are and who we shall become. Welcome back to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Madingor. My guest is Aggrey Tisa Sabuni, the advisor on Economic Affairs. Welcome back again.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the benefits, the immediate benefits of us being in the East African community. Then talk about the long-term benefits. and then some of potential pitfalls.
Thank you very much. The immediate benefits will relate to our policy framework, to our legal frameworks. Any institution can never move anywhere without a properly defined policy framework. Where are we going? Ministry of Health. How are we going to handle the health sector? What are you going to emphasize in the health sector? Is it curative medicine? Is it preventive medicine? Or is it primary health? Or whatever it is. Education, the same thing. Animal resources, livestock, for example. Why are the majority of South Sudanese keeping cattle? Is it for milk, for dairy purposes? Is it for beef purposes? Or is it for some other purposes like social or whatever it is? Why is it? So the policy directive of the institute of the government, of the institutions, and so on, need to be properly defined. From those will emanate the required laws, and then the operational procedures and processes. This is what the East African Community Treaty requires.
Talking about policy framework,
yes,
and that is an institutional benefit to South Sudan. But the common people would ask,
yes,
what are we getting in the here and now, in the immediate future?
Each activity is regulated through a law or a protocol. The one that you know best and desire to see immediately in action, like many people, is this issue of free movement, people moving between borders without paying immigration fee. This is what borders people most. This one is governed through a protocol called Common Market Protocol.
Which has not yet been.
No, my goodness,
effective.
it is a commitment. South Sudan is committed to implement that protocol that permits the free movement of persons, people who go to and fro, not necessarily looking for jobs, but maybe for medical attention, maybe for relaxation, maybe for educational purposes. That is one of the freedoms enshrined in the Common Market Protocol. Then there's free movement of persons, which is the way I have defined it. There's free movement of workers. These are people who go into and out of the member state countries in order to establish business. That is work. That one is also guaranteed with appropriate policies and procedures and so on. Free movement of goods within the member countries. Why is it free? Because it will attract no custom tariff, no custom duties. Free movement of capital, movement of investment money across. At the moment, it is not all that much regulated. Free movement of services, like banking, and so on and so on. There are foreign banks here, but they have come in without a legal framework. Now we want to rationalize this because they require extensive revision to our existing laws or creation of laws that we still do not have. Given our capacity constraint, our capacity gaps, we requested the East African Community that this particular protocol, Common Market Protocol, where you find the four freedoms are enshrined: freedom of movement of persons and labor, capital, goods, and services, that we should be allowed to upgrade, update, amend our laws to do it. And we have estimated that it will take not less than 3 years. If we do it within 1 year or within 2 years, so much the better, so be it. But we have allowed them not to begin querying us where we are in terms of free movement of persons, not to begin querying us on this until the elapse of 3 years. Amendments in our law,
Sir,
and so on and so on.
You insist on speaking about some of the benefits that we will get probably in the near future or in the distant future.
Correct.
But can we do a reality check about where South Sudan is? South Sudan, as we speak, is a country that is going through a lot of internal challenges. So it is okay to have a community to be part of. But ultimately, when you look at South Sudan economically, you know the dollar hyperinflation and how expensive things have become, and we are no longer getting the hard currency that we used to get. So how will that affect those benefits that we are supposed to be getting from East African community?
Thank you very much. Exactly, that's where we should have started. In terms of why do we think South Sudan's membership in the East African community could be a solution to fixing South Sudan, okay? That means if we talk about fixing South Sudan, it means there is something wrong about it.
Yes.
It is in a situation that requires fixing. So what is wrong? And why fix it? Okay, you need to fix it because it must be fixed. It cannot continue the way it is. Because it continues the way it is, the issues you have raised up, skyrocketing prices, shortages of goods, things not being done, will continue. So your program is appropriate. To fix something means to repair it. To repair it means putting it right so that it functions, so that it delivers. Okay? So that now we don't have to complain. Why do you want to fix it? We need to fix it in terms of security. We need to fix it in terms of the economy so that you don't complain about whatever it is. We need to fix it in terms of the social fabric. We need to fix it so that it is not fragile. You need to fix those.
There are two arguments, just to add to you, on that level.
Yes.
We fix it through external bodies, like East African community, to some extent. Or we look inwards and fix it ourselves. So in this case, we are talking about how the community helps us to fix our problems. So
membership in the community.
Our membership.
Yes.
So how does that happen?
Yes, exactly. Of course, as all of us will appreciate, fixing South Sudan will take a lot of activities, a lot of programs by many actors. For the purpose of this discussion, we agreed to explore how membership in the East African community will contribute to that overall fixing. We will be supported to frame proper policy frameworks, proper legal frameworks, proper operational procedures, proper ways of handling our finances, executing our budgets. When we do those things, then we'll realize the connection of our country to itself in form of roads. We will be able now to create the health and educational facilities that at the moment are lacking. Now, once we are able to fix our security concerns, our roads are okay, our institutions are functioning, that means we have created the South Sudan state. We have created a functioning state. We will, at the same time as we fix the state, we will also be fixing the nation. Now, with a fixed nation functioning, with a fixed state operating with the security organs, what prevents us now from creating the required investment climate in order to produce, in order to trade, create prosperity, and the sky will be the limit.
I get a sense that you believe highly in policy, how policy can help South Sudan. Effective policy making will lead to tangible benefits. And I don't see the correlation between maybe at the policy level you have fancy ideas, and South Sudan has fancy ideas that it has not implemented. So you talk about getting to infrastructure, getting to education, to good health, and many, many more that can emanate from this. But how do you finance those things through the East African community? Is it the policy framework that we have been lacking, that we need to get where we are?
You see, it's like going into a restaurant. You are hungry and you want to get into a restaurant, but you are struggling out there to get the means of getting it. Once you get into a restaurant, you will be able to select the kind of dish you want. You will be able to select the kind of dish you want.
And hopefully pay for it.
Putting the policy framework in place creates that atmosphere. Instead of going haphazardly, not knowing how to go about it, not having the right laws in place, you will be muddling, you will be wobbling, you will be unable to perform. That's why we need to get this hurdle out of the way. You need to get this hurdle out of the way. When we reach a situation where throughout the implementation of a policy framework is that for anything to happen in terms of personnel management, we must have the right person in the right place. That can be taken as a policy framework. Then you create the law to make this one legal, that it must be done like that, and the procedures. Then you end up putting the right person in the right place who will now go and help to do things, because what is not any idea, not any end in itself, putting the right person in the right place. You put the right person in the right place in order to do certain things. Okay? In order to plan properly, in order to program properly. In order now, if it is construction, if it is teaching, if it is nursing, if it is whatnot, so that they do it properly. The training of people in various fields, it requires a deliberate policy measure, a deliberate legal framework, and so on, which at the moment we are lacking.
Let me get you to quickly outline our promise economically as a nation. We have a great promise. And what you have been talking about is how this body can ultimately help us to achieve the prosperity we want. But we are not there. What is there in terms of economic potential for South Sudan? So let's paint it and then now connect to how we tap into that.
Thank you. I like the concept of the economic promise. Simply put, the way you put it, the economic potential. That is an area that South Sudan is well endowed with. Extensive land area, a lot of mineral resources underground, good supply of water, appropriate tropical climate, good for the production of all kinds of tropical crops, lakes teeming with fish, animal resources. You have all those, but at the moment they remain unexploited. It is these resources, this potential, this promise that now we need to exploit through proper investment, guided by proper laws.
Good place to stop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.